Good evening. I am Senior Master Sergeant Rebecca Shelley, and on behalf of our commander, Lieutenant General Brad Webb, I would like to welcome you to the Air Force Special Operations Command Outstanding Airman of the Year banquet and the celebration of the Air Force's 70th birthday. Captain J.T. Thorpe and I are honored to be your masters of ceremony this evening. We are gathered to celebrate the inspiring accomplishments of our air commandos at the tip of the spear who broke barriers both at home and abroad in 2016. Tonight's guest speaker is World War II veteran Mr. Bill Becker.
It is our distinct pleasure to welcome the Air Force Special Operations Command 2016 Outstanding Airman of the Year. Please draw your attention to the center of the room as our sword team forms the cordon.
Sabre team, post.
Order, attention, hut, step. Mark, time. Order, halt, center, face. Dress center, dress. Ready, two. Ready, front.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Airman of the Year is Staff Sergeant Stephen LaPointe.
March.
Staff Sergeant LaPointe is a combat control journeyman assigned to the 24th Special Tactics Squadron, Pope Army Airfield, North Carolina. Staff Sergeant LaPointe is accompanied by his wife Kirsten and son Thaddeus.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year is Technical Sergeant Eduardo Clemente. Sergeant Clemente is an independent duty medical technician assigned to the 352nd Special Operations Support Squadron, Royal Air Force Mildenhall, United Kingdom. Sergeant Clemente is accompanied tonight by his wife, Tech Sergeant Lacey Clemente.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Senior Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year is Senior Master Sergeant Kevin Osby. Sergeant Osby is the superintendent assigned to the 1st Special Operations Medical Support Squadron, Herbert Field, Florida. Sergeant Osby is escorted tonight by his wife, Katrina.
The Air Force Special Operations Command First Sergeant of the Year is Master Sergeant Ruby Tilley. Sergeant Tilley is the first sergeant for the 27th Special Operations Civil Engineer Squadron at Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico. Sergeant Tilley is accompanied tonight by her friend, Master Sergeant Joanne Hale.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Company Grade Officer of the Year is Captain Austin Almond. Captain Almond is the Assistant Director of Operations to the 24th Special Tactics Squadron, Pope Army Airfield, North Carolina.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Individual Reservist Enlisted is Technical Sergeant Charles McFall. Sergeant McFall is an individual mobilization augmentee, non-commissioned officer in charge assigned to the 1st Special Operations Security Forces Squadron, Herbert Field, Florida.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Individual Reservist Officer of the Year is Major Catrice Powell Thompson. Major Powell Thompson is the Operations Officer assigned to the 11th Special Operations Intelligence Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Major Powell Thompson is accompanied tonight by her husband, Jason.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Civilian of the Year, Category 1, is Mr. Douglas Woods. Mr. Woods is a lead firefighter and crew chief assigned to the 1st Special Operations Civil Engineer Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Mr. Woods is escorted tonight by his wife, Carrie.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Civilian of the Year, Category 2, is Mrs. Stephanie McCullough. Mrs. McCullough is the flight chief of the Commodities Flight assigned to the 1st Special Operations Contracting Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Mrs. McCullough is accompanied by her husband, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Michael McCullough.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Civilian of the Year, Category 3, is Mr. Sean Cordero. Mr. Cordero is a machinist assigned to the 27th Special Operations Maintenance Squadron, Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico. Mr. Cordero is accompanied tonight by his wife, Aurora.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Civilian of the Year, Category 4, is Dr. Julia Crutchfield. Dr. Crutchfield is the Chief Learning Officer assigned to the 492nd Special Operations Training Group, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Dr. Crutchfield is accompanied by her husband, Chief Master Sergeant Rick Crutchfield, United States Air Force, retired.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Honor Guard Member of the Year is Senior Airman Joshua Milon. Senior Airman Milon is a ceremonial guardsman and certified patrolman assigned to the 1st Special Operations Security Forces Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Senior Airman Milon is accompanied tonight by his beautiful girlfriend, Alexis Wallace.
The Air Force Special Operations Command Honor Guard Manager of the Year is Master Sergeant Robert Payne. Sergeant Payne is the Superintendent of the Hurlburt Field Honor Guard assigned to the 1st Special Operations Force Support Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Sergeant Payne is accompanied tonight by his wife, Ella.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for our 2016 Air Force Special Operations Command Outstanding Airman of the Year. Please stand for the presentation of the colors, the singing of the national anthem by Colonel Espinoza, and the invocation by Chaplain Johnson. Present the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let's pray. Eternal God, we say thank you for that beautiful rendition of the national anthem and the meeting freedoms that we enjoy. We thank you for this beautiful Air Commando Day and an absolutely inspiring evening. Tonight, we showcase Air Commandos who have set the bar higher than the standard, have excelled beyond expectations, and have earned the privilege of being honored, for they are truly the best of the best. And may we never forget the shoulders of supervisors, coworkers, family, and friends that have lifted high and promptly displayed their talent, and to our community leaders for their stellar support. We ask that you keep safe all who are deployed and bring them home safely, as you did the carpetbaggers, 3 who are with us this evening. For them, we are grateful. Bless now this food to our bodies, for which we are thankful. In your name we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you, Colonel Espinoza and Chaplain Johnson.
At this time, we would like to introduce the distinguished guests in the audience tonight. Please hold your applause until all the introductions are made. The former Commander, Headquarters, United States Special Operations Command, and Air Force Special Operations Command, General Charles Holland.
The Commander, Air Force Special Operations Command, Lieutenant General Brad Webb and his wife, Donna.
Also from the command team, the Command Chief, Chief Master Sergeant Gregory Smith and his wife, Tina.
The Executive Director, Air Force Special Operations Command, Mr. Steve Herrera.
The Mayor of Fort Walton Beach, the Honorable Dick Reinierson and his wife, Janie.
The former Commander, Air Force Special Operations Command, and current Principal Deputy Director, Cost Assessment and Program Evaluation, Office of the Secretary of Defense, Lieutenant General Brad Heithold.
I'm glad you got his title. The Vice Commander, Headquarters, United States Special Operations Command, Lieutenant General Thomas Trask and his wife, Karen.
The former commander, Air Force Special Operations Command, Lieutenant General Bruce Pfister, and his wife, Melissa.
The Chief of Staff, United States Southern Command, Major General Mike Plain.
The Mobilization Assistant to the Commander, Air Force Special Operations Command, Major General James Scanlon.
The Chief of Staff and Civic Leader Program Member, Mr. Tony Hughes, and his wife, Mia.
Chief of Staff, Civic Leader Program Emeritus Member, Mr. Cliff Long.
Also with us tonight are three very special guests. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce World War II veterans and Operation Carpetbaggers, Captain Eugene Polinsky, Lieutenant Hewitt Gomez, and Mr. William Becker, who is accompanied tonight by Miss Jean Shelton.
To all general officers, commanders, chiefs, civic leaders, directors, colleagues, sponsors, friends, and most importantly, family, thank you for honoring us with your presence here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hurlburt Field Honor Guard will now set a table in honor of our fallen and missing brothers and sisters in arms.
Good evening, everyone. As you enter the dining area, you may have noticed a table at the front, raised to call to your attention to its purpose. It is reserved to honor our missing comrades in arms. Set for 5, the empty places represent Americans still missing from each of the 5 services: Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. This ceremony symbolizes that they are with us here in spirit. Some here in this room were very young when they went into combat. However, all Americans should never forget the brave men and women who answered our nation's call to serve and serve the cause of freedom in a special way. I would like to ask you to stand and remain standing for a moment of silent prayer as the Honor Guard places the 5 service covers on each empty plate.
Center.
Please be seated. I would like to explain the meaning of the items on this special table. The table is round to show our everlasting concern for our missing men and women. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to duty. The single red rose, displayed in a vase, reminds us of the life of each of the missing and the loved ones and the friends of these Americans who keep the faith, awaiting answers. The vase is tied with a red ribbon, a symbol of our continued determination to account for our missing. A slice of lemon on the bread plate, to remind us of the bitter fate of those captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears endured by those missing and their families who seek answers. The glass is inverted to symbolize their inability to share this evening's toast. The chair is empty. They are missing. Let us now raise our water glasses in toast to America's Palmias, and to the success of our efforts to account for them. Remember them.
For the Hurlburt Field Honor Guard. We're going to eat now. Are we ready? We'll continue after we eat. Enjoy your dinner. So real quick, that video was put together by Airman Prevow of the Hurlburt Fields PA team. Great job.
Air Commandos are quiet professionals personally committed to their craft. They are airmen in the air component of U.S. Special Operations Command, able and ready to provide specialized air power any place, anytime, anywhere.
Air Commandos believe that one person makes a difference, and as our heritage demands, we remain culturally bound to get the mission done or find a way where none exists. The roots of the Air Force Special Operations Forces were established to support Allied forces during World War II. In 1943, the Office of Strategic Services, a forerunner of the Central Intelligence Agency, called upon the U.S. Army Air Forces to conduct special operations from the United Kingdom to support missions deep into occupied Europe. These dangerous clandestine missions were flown at night under the codename Carpetbagger.
The 801st Bombardment Group Provisional was formed by 8th Air Force in September of 1943, redesignated as the 492nd Bombardment Group the following year. Flying the B-24 Liberator with special air-ground directional devices, their aircraft were modified to allow parachutists to jump from a cargo hatch, allow greater visibility for the pilot and co-pilot, and painted black to help evade searchlights. From January 1944 to May of 1945, risking their lives to German night fighters, flak, and the terrain, the 492nd flew over 1,800 sorties, accounted for some 1,000 personnel drop and recovery missions, and delivered more than 20,000 containers and 11,000 packages to support resistance forces in Europe. They also flew more than 2,000 sorties to drop propaganda leaflets, broadcast Allied radio messages, and jam enemy radio programs. These types of undertakings should sound familiar to you. AFSOC continues to embody the Carpetbaggers' legacy of bravery and boldness through one of our core missions today, specialized air mobility.
It is my honor again to introduce our guest speaker for tonight, Mr. Bill Becker.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. You know, I didn't know I was going to have to do this. But they notified me the other day, and I didn't plan anything, but I figured I'm going to tell you a story. How I became a carpetbagger. I was 18 years old, lived in the Bronx, New York. Bronx. The Bronx. You must have been from Brooklyn. That was the Dodgers and the Yankees. Anyway, all my friends were in the Army or the Navy, and I was walking the streets of the Bronx with no friends. I have nobody to play with, no baseball, no basketball, nothing. So I picked myself up one day, and I went down to Grand Central Plaza in New York, and I enlisted in the Air Force, because that's where I wanted to be. I didn't want to be on a ship, because I thought maybe I would get seasick. Because I used to get seasick in a bus, just travel. So I figured on a ship it was definite. And I wanted to be a pilot. Boy, kids 18 years old want to be a pilot, right? Well, I came home and I told my mother I joined the Air Force. Well, she looked at me and she said, "I'm going to kill you." I said, "Ma," "oh, my friends are gone, and what am I?" Anyway, I got called, and I went in, and I became a private in the United States Air Corps. And I wanted to be a pilot, but they wouldn't take me because they had been, actually, they had enough pilots. And they had enough navigators, and they had enough bombardiers, but they didn't have enough gunners. And he says, "You're going to be a gunner." I says, "Okay, whatever you say." And I became a gunner. I was stationed down here in Florida at Fort Myers for a while. They sent me there. They sent me to Tyndall Field to get gunnery training. And from there, they sent me to Massachusetts, where a crew was put together. I was the gunner. My good friend and buddy and brother and comrade in arms, Hewitt Gomez, was the navigator. And of course, we had another. Yeah, that's him. He was small. I didn't see him there. But he was small then also. And he looked like a kid about 14 years old. And we all said, "That's going to be the navigator of our crew? A young kid like that? What does he know?" Thank God, he knew plenty. Anyway, we got together and they shipped us down to Savannah, Georgia. There was an Air Corps base there called Chatham Air Force Base. And we started practicing daylight missions. I have to get back to that. When I went to Tyndall Field and I started gunnery training, when I was finally almost finished, they shipped me to Apalachicola, where the B-24s were. And that was the one that they put me on, and they flew me so that I could shoot into the water targets. I could shoot the planes dragging the targets. I learned that in Apalachicola. Fortunately, the first time I got on one of those planes, I said, "I hope I don't get seasick. I hope I don't get sick." Because I was the only one that didn't. And from that day on, I can fly any place. Well, anyway, we got back to Savannah, Georgia, and we trained. And I couldn't figure out sometimes why we were flying at night from Savannah to Cuba, over the water, and if you're going to be doing bombing missions, what the heck are we doing on the ground, that low, near the water? Never figured out what they were, I think, getting us ready for. Well, when we got finished with that, they shipped us to, they shipped me to New York, and from New York, we all got together, and we went from there. That was in Fort. I don't remember the name of the field, but we went from there. We flew to Bangor. As a crew, we flew to Bangor, Maine. From Bangor, Maine, we went up to Labrador, Goose Bay. Freezing cold. I said, "What did I need this for? I could have stayed in the Bronx." They gave us a place to sleep. I was sleeping in my flight suit because it was that cold. Must have been about 45 degrees below zero. And when I got up the first morning, you couldn't get out the door. There was a snowstorm that night. They had to call a bulldozer. The bulldozer out. That's how cold it was. Naturally, the navigators, I don't know where they were. They had probably nice warm places. We had pot-belly stoves. But what they did, they said, we're going to fly out of there. So, Bill, get on the bed, go over. They showed me the plane. They had these big heaters that were heating the engines one at a time. And they get one engine started, move to the next one, till they got all four engines really rolling, and then they say, "Get up on the plane and gas it up," because how much gas they burned up doing that. Well, I had a stocking cap on, and I said, it was that cold that I had an icicle down to here from my breath. And who comes prompting out? The navigator and the pilot and the bombardier. But Bill is up on the top of a B-24 wing, gassing. But I loved them anyway. We finally had a chance. We had all four engines rolling, and I had my fingers crossed because everything was ice. But we got off the ground. They gave us a box for lunch, a box lunch, and we took off. Cold, we gone about 2 hours in the air, I guess, and we're going to eat our lunch. Opened up the box, the sandwich was like a rock. You had to take a hammer to break it, so we didn't eat it. The orange and the apple that they gave us, like a baseball. You couldn't, but they did have a Hershey chocolate bar. And that's what kept us going. And we flew from there, we were supposed to go to Valley, Wales, but we had trouble with our plane, and we landed in a town called Nuts Corners, about 11 miles north of Belfast, Ireland. And that's when I became, well, you remember radar in the MASH? When we got there, we brought a brand new plane out, and we carried, besides our own parachutes, we carried 10 extra parachutes that were going to be going to whoever's going to get that plane. The British gave us a place to sleep. You ever sleep on a hairy blanket? That's what we slept on. Well, Bill, what are we going to do? I went out and I took a parachute, and I hope nobody does anything now because it's a long time ago. And I took a parachute and I cut up silk for all of us, and we slept between the silk for a couple of days. Went into Belfast, had a good time a couple of times. The Colleens there, they loved us because I think there was the 86th or the 101st that just left there. There were no American soldiers, so hey, they fell all over us. But we had a good time, no problem. Nice, don't. Well, what do you want from an 18-year-old kid? He don't even know he's alive. And from there, the next day we got a plane, we flew there to Valley, Wales, where we were supposed to go. Got to Valley, Wales, they put us into a mountain. They had cut out of a mountain where we could sleep. They didn't have any tents, they didn't have any buildings, but they just drilled holes in a mountain. The smell of sauerkraut was all over the place because I found out later that was the sauerkraut, the best place in the world to get the best sauerkraut. It was the sauerkraut place of the world. Those are things that, you remember these things because without, memories are made like this. And then they put us on a train and they sent us down to Harrington. Actually, it went to Kettering. Kettering was the big town near Harrington. And then I think it was a couple of trucks came and picked us up and took us to Harrington. And that's when we got in, and I got on the base, and what do I see? Black B-24s. What's this? So I said, well, I never saw these. What? Well, we found out. They took us and they started to brief us. I've told this story before. They briefed us, they told us, you're going to be flying at night about 400 to 600 feet above the deck. You will be dropping agents and supplies only during the moon nights. And they kept telling us all the bad things that could happen. In fact, if you're carrying a gun with you, make sure that you destroy it, because if you get shot down and you are espionage, you can be shot on the spot if you had a gun. So they give you a gun and a cosmoline. You don't even probably want to clean the cosmoline off of it. Well, where was I? So now we decided we have to make they said to us, if you want this here, you can do it. We'll put you on. But if you don't, we'll send you back to some kind of bombing missions, daylight bombing missions. So we got together, the officers got together, and the pilot decided we're going to do it. And they said, well, now that you're going to do it, if you walk out of here and you decide to do anything, you will be brought back, and if you say anything, you're going to be brought back and shot. Now, OSS was there at the time, too. So I didn't even know who OSS was. It was just letters. And we didn't know what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, but that's when I learned how to become a carpetbagger. Our first mission was a milk run. If the ladies don't know what a milk run was, it was easy. No problems. No flak, no bullets, no, came back. Hey, Jerry, I said, Jerry was my pilot's name. Jerry, this is great. If this is all we got to do now, we're good. The next day, that didn't happen. The next day, we got shot up, plenty, and I got pictures of the bullet holes in our plane. That next morning, when we got back from a mission, they would give us a shot of cognac. 18-year-old kid doesn't drink cognac, but I started to drink cognac because it put me to sleep. We were sent to have breakfast, but that's about the time we got back. There was a wall between where the flyers, the airmen, had breakfast, and the wall was about that high, and on the other side were all the mechanics that fix your planes. They would served us fresh eggs. The mechanics didn't get fresh eggs. Now we were important, right? I take my fresh eggs, I put it on the shelf up on the top, and let my guys, I knew who our mechanics were, let them have the fresh eggs. They had in the mess hall, they had what they called a honey bucket. It's basically like a coal bucket. You know what those coal buckets that they used years ago? Anybody that, you know what a coal bucket is? In there, they had milk, powdered milk. I don't remember how long we were there. We were there quite a while. Nobody ever took a drop of that milk. We used to use that evaporated, they had canned evaporated milk. But we did get ice cream on a holiday and on Sunday. Big 50-gallon drums of ice cream, and they would pile it on. And I said, there's no refrigeration here. How do they get so much ice cream? Well, you know what they did? They made the ice cream, they put it on a B-24, they flew it up at 25, 30,000 feet. They flew it around all morning until it froze. When we came down for dinner, that's when they dropped it down, and boy, you got plenty of ice cream. Well, that's basically what happened at Harrington. But on my second mission, and this is the truth, when we got back, and I got back to my bunk, I went out to take a shave and clean myself up. I looked in the mirror, and I had one gray hair in my head. 18-year-old kid with one gray hair. That's how scared I was on that second mission. They said, don't pull it. If you pull it, you're going to get two. Well, I must have pulled it. Because I am now. Well, so now, where can I go from there? We had quite a few missions. We went into Norway in one mission. We went down into the fjords of Norway. We almost scraped the fjords with our wing tips. Thank God we had a good bombardier who didn't do any bombardiering, but his job was to be there when we would drop the packages. That was his bombing experience. He didn't need the Sperry gyroscope. He didn't need anything. But we got out. There were barrage balloons all over the place. We couldn't get out. We kept flying around and around until we got up to the top. And I don't know if any of you guys ever read about Rebecca, but Rebecca was a way of getting spots like R, E, B, 3 different spots, and where they crossed, that's where we were. Said to Hewitt, we got enough gas to get back to England? He said, just about. We took we took a vote. Do we go back to England, try, or do we go to Sweden and become interned? Well, you don't want to become interned because what happens there, the war is over for you, but your parents find out that you've been missing in action. And what's going to happen? You know, they're going to get worried and you maybe get sick. So we decided we're going back. Well, we went back, but we didn't make it back to Harrington. We made it back to Glasgow. And that's where we landed. They gassed us up, and the next day we flew back to Harrington. And that's basically a couple of my missions. We had a couple of other ones that were really bad, but I can't keep going in all of them because I don't remember all of them. But because you're scared. Hey, this is something really fun. This is a fun thing. When the war was over, they all paid us in American money. Before that, we were getting English pounds. They gave us American money. I walked into the latrine, and I'm carrying about, I think I had, we were getting $50. That's right, we were getting $50 a day, money, once a month. We got the $50 once a month. Went into the latrine, and I see, now I'm a sergeant, but I see officers in there, and they're shooting craps. And I kept looking at it because I'm a New York guy. I used to watch that on the street corners in New York. So I took $5 and I put it down. I say $5 he does, $5 he don't. I wound up with about $150. Then and these are true stories. I got the dice, and I made 11 passes in a row. And I took away from one guy $2,100. Where he got it, I don't know. But I had the $2,100, and then he comes to me and he says to me, Bill, do me a favor, lend me $100 so I can get home. So I took it from him. I gave him $100, and I gave him my address, and he says, I'll send you the money when I get home. I said, okay. So I took the money, and I went into town, into Kettering, and I went to the post office, and I made money orders out of it, put it in a money sack around my belly, and that's the way I carried it, because I didn't want to send the money, that $2,500, whatever I had at that time, back to my parents. So I figured I put it in money orders in my mother's name, and they wouldn't see, if they saw that kind of money coming back, they think that I was killed, and they would be getting their first insurance policy paid, you know? So, all right, took care of that, and we flew back to the States. Got back to the States, we flew into Springfield, Massachusetts, and the first thing I got a really good donut and a cup of coffee. The Red Cross was there. The most delicious donut. That made me a donut freak because I became that way. But I wanted a chocolate milkshake or a malt, and I didn't have any cash. I had put all my money into money orders. So I said to the guy at the PX, I said, do me a favor. I have a short snorter. You know what a short snorter is? No. It's wherever you are, if you take a bill of that country or that state or the city and you tape it one to the other and you keep rolling it, that becomes a short snorter. And if I had it here and I had the short snorter, I would have General Webb sign it. I would have Colonel Kelly sign it, and that would be on my short snorter for the future. I had a Hawaiian dollar bill on there, and if you ever saw that, that's an American dollar bill with Hawaii written across the back. I said, I give you the Hawaiian dollar bill, but don't spend it, don't deposit it. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to get paid. I'll give you a regular. So he did that. The worst thing that happened to me then was that when I opened my wallet the next day, I had a $20 bill in it that I had completely forgotten that I put in when I first went to Europe. And I put it there for that reason, that if I got back without any money, I would have $20. So he gave it to me. That was that part. So now you notice the history of a carpetbagger. But I have something. What did I do? When I was told I might have to say something, So I wrote something down, and I'm going to say it now, and I hope that I did good. But I want to commend each and every one of you of your many accomplishments. Your missions have been different and difficult, but accomplished. And I have saved and have saved many lives, and in some cases, millions of dollars. The carpetbaggers know that our country is in good hands. May God bless you all, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. In sincere appreciation for your time tonight, a donation of $200 to the Air Force Enlisted Village has been made in your name. Since World War II, the bravery and valor of AFSOC Airmen has allowed us to become the Air Force's most decorated command in history. To date, Air Commandos have earned and accumulated 36 meritorious unit citations, 16 gallant unit citations, 40 Silver Stars, 37 Air Force Crosses, 5 Medals of Honor, and 78 Distinguished Flying Crosses.
Rest assured, the men and women of AFSOC will continue to break barriers and lead the way by remaining ready, relevant, and resilient. We will combat violent extremism and threats to peace around the globe, anytime, any place, and anywhere. General Webb, Chief Smith, and Mr. Herrera, would you please come up? It's time to do our awards.
Our Airman of the Year is from the 24th Special Tactics Squadron, Hope Army Airfield, North Carolina. Staff Sergeant Stephen LaPointe. While deployed, Sergeant LaPointe served as lead combat controller, where he conducted 35 direct action raids that resulted in 33 enemy terrorists killed in action, including the number 2 wanted man in his area of operations. Additionally, as the critical air-to-ground link, Sergeant LaPointe was responsible for making the split-second decision to abort an attacking aircraft from engaging civilian non-combatants, in turn avoiding unnecessary loss of life and political fallout. Sergeant LaPointe developed, tested, and implemented operational tactics, techniques, and procedures in order to ensure the unit's standard operating procedures were valid and aligned with national security requirements. Air Force Special Operation Command Airman of the Year, Staff Sergeant Stephen LaPointe. Our non-commissioned officer of the year is from the 352nd Special Operations Support Squadron's medical flight, Royal Air Force Mildenhall, United Kingdom. Technical Sergeant Eduardo F. Clemente. Sergeant Clemente served as the non-commissioned officer in charge of medical operations and developed medical plans to key leaders, supporting 1,200 personnel, 19 aircraft, executing 32 missions encompassing 3 combatant commands, and 41 nations. Furthermore, he deployed in support of a Joint Chiefs of Staff exercise in the Republic of Georgia, where he led 32 members with 16 distinct Air Force specialty codes, and oversaw a casualty evacuation mission of a critically ill United States Army Special Operations member and a search and rescue mission for 2 missing host nation military divers. The Air Force Special Operations Command Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year, Technical Sergeant Eduardo F. Clemente. Our Senior Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year is from the 1st Special Operations Medical Support Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Senior Master Sergeant Kevin Osby. Sergeant Osby served as the Squadron Superintendent and as the Career Field MAGCOM Functional Manager. He led a squadron of 123 active duty and civilian personnel that maintained a $16 million budget for the most deployed wing in the Air Force. His oversight and direction was instrumental in gaining an out-of-cycle $45 million military construction project that will completely modernize the 1st Special Operations Medical Group, solving a 7-year clinical space shortage. The Air Force Special Operations Command Senior NCO of the Year is Senior Master Sergeant Kevin Osby. Our 1st Sergeant of the Year is from the 27th Special Operations Wing, 27th Special Operations Civil Engineer Squadron, Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico. Master Sergeant Ruby Tilley. Sergeant Tilley served as an advisor to the commander on a wide range of issues, including morale, welfare, professional development, and discipline for over 400 personnel. She coordinated off-site commanders' calls with operations, maintenance, and support groups, showcasing the unit's impact and relevance on the AFSOC mission. Additionally, she liaised with 3 finance units in the AOR to correct pay problems for 150 personnel, ensuring warfighters received $25,000 in overdue entitlements. Finally, she expanded the squadron's resiliency program by teaching resilience-based skills to squadron key spouses. The Air Force Special Operation Command 1st Sergeant of the Year, Master Sergeant Ruby Tilley. Our Company Grade Officer of the Year is from the 724th Special Tactics Group, Pope Army Airfield, North Carolina, Captain Austin Almond. Captain Almond served as the commander, 2 Troop, 24th Special Tactics Squadron. He deployed in support of the United States Africa Command as the Deputy Commander for a Regional Special Operations Joint Task Force. He organized, led, and trained a 4,000-man partner force and commanded a 24-man Joint Special Operations outstation against a known threat to the United States. His exceptional leadership and flawless command and control of air and ground forces led to the eradication of the region's #1 enemy. Captain Almond flawlessly managed a $1 million budget supporting an 8-month Secretary of Defense directive alert. The Air Force Special Operation Command Company Grade Officer of the Year, Captain Austin Almond. Our enlisted reservist of the year is from the 1st Special Operations Security Forces Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Technical Sergeant Charles McFall. Sergeant McFall served as a patrolman and security forces investigator. As a patrolman, Sergeant McFall responded to numerous calls for service that included DUIs, domestic violence, and traffic crashes. While assigned to flight, Sergeant McFall was charged to conduct training of more than 40 security forces members. As an investigator, Tech Sergeant McFall ran cases dealing with illegal narcotics use and possession, and large fraud cases that occurred both on and off the installation. He attained an amazing 80% confession rate with subjects and recovered more than $40,000 in government and personal property and funds. Our enlisted reservist of the year, Technical Sergeant Charles McFall. Our individual reservist officer of the year is from the 11th Special Operations Intelligence Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida. Major Catrice Powell Thompson. Major Powell Thompson served as the acting operations officer for 540 squadron personnel, conducting 24/7 operations of full motion video processing, exploitation, and dissemination in direct support of the nation's special operations units. She managed and directed 6,000 hours of video exploitation with over 6,500 products distributed in support of 1,000 special operations missions, resulting in 16 kinetic strikes and 48 enemies killed in action. The Air Force Special Operations Individual Reservist Officer of the Year, Major Catrice Powell Thompson. Our civilian, Category 1 of the year, is from the Air Force Special Operations Civil Engineering Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida, Mr. Douglas Woods. Mr. Woods served as a lead firefighter and directed a crew of 4 personnel during 172 emergency responses. He assumed incident command on emergencies until the senior fire officer arrived on scene. Additionally, he led rescue efforts during an off-base motor vehicle accident with 4 local departments. He assisted with the extraction of 2 personnel with critical injuries. His actions saved both lives and prevented further injury for a full recovery. Finally, he filled a level above his position description to fill gaps during deployment. He coordinated on staffing vehicles and scheduled training for mutual aid partners. The Air Force Special Operations Command Civilian Category 1 of the Year is Mr. Douglas Woods. Our Civilian of the Year Category 2 is from the Air Force Special Operations Contracting Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida, Ms. Stephanie C. McCullough. Ms. McCullough served as Chief of the Commodities Flight, leading the acquisition of 476 critical supply contracts in support of 4 wings, 4 groups, and 25 squadrons. She managed the unit's most dynamic flight, executing 49.3 million in contract actions, with a blistering $34 million being awarded in the final 30 days of the fiscal year. Finally, she secured $18,000 in information technology equipment valued at $17.3 million and was lauded by the AFSOC A6 as Best Contracting Support in the Air Force. The Air Force Special Operations Command Category 2 Civilian of the Year, Ms. Stephanie C. McCullough. Our Category 3 Civilian of the Year is from the 27th Special Operations Maintenance Squadron, Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico, Mr. Sean Cordaro. Mr. Cordaro served as the Wing's lead civilian metals technology supervisor and advised senior-level decision-makers on the structural capabilities of various weapon systems and the fabrication of critical airframe components. He managed the design and production of 46 laser mounts, securing the AC-130W infrared countermeasures modification timeline. Additionally, his expertise and direction were pivotal in executing the MC-130J axle guard modification, where he manufactured crucial mission components for 13 aircraft, eliminating $1.5 million in annual maintenance costs and avoiding a complete overhaul of the aircraft system. The Air Force Special Operations Command Category 3 Civilian of the Year, Mr. Sean Cordaro. Our Category 4 Civilian of the Year is from the former Air Force Special Operations Air Warfare Center, now the 492nd Special Operations Training Group, Hurlburt Field, Florida, Dr. Julie Crutchfield. Dr. Crutchfield served as the center's Chief Learning Officer, furnishing sage advice for advocacy for 7 schools and 250 instructors. She reinstituted the AFSOC Methods of Instruction course and qualified 62 new instructors to teach credit awarding courses. Additionally, she chaired the Community College of the Air Force Affiliated Schools Advisory Panel and was appointed by the Secretary of Defense to serve on the CCAF Subcommittee of the Air University Board of Visitors. The Air Force Special Operations Command Category 4 Civilian of the Year, Dr. Julie Crutchfield. Our Honor Guard Member of the Year is from the 1st Special Operations Security Forces Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida, Senior Airman Joshua A. Milan. While assigned to the Honor Guard, Airman Milan was awarded the prestigious head trainer position where he guided and oversaw 12 trainers and 34 guardsmen. His attention to detail ensured 100% accuracy on 319 ceremony requests, which included 217 funeral honors. Additionally, Airman Milan led 3 full honors funerals for fallen active duty airmen, which included the first ever joint detail with Eglin Honor Guard members. Finally, Airman Milan was hand-selected to train and lead a joint colors team to present the colors in front of 84,000 fans at the inaugural Florida State University Veterans Day football game. The Air Force Special Operations Command Honor Guard Member of the Year, Senior Airman Joshua A. Milan. Our Honor Guard Program Manager of the Year is from the Air Force Special Operations Force Support Squadron, Hurlburt Field, Florida, Master Sergeant Robert E. Payne. Under his leadership, the Honor Guard covered all ceremonies and funeral honors for 20 counties within 2 states. Master Sergeant Payne had 100% ceremony accuracy on 613 requests, to include 319 funeral honors. Additionally, Master Sergeant Payne led his team to present the colors for the Special Tactics Memorial honoring fallen AFSOC airmen. The flawless ceremony was lauded by the Chief of Staff of the Air Force as Hurlburt Field Honor Guard just set a new standard, the best I've ever seen in my career. The Air Force Special Operations Honor Guard Manager of the Year, Master Sergeant Robert Payne.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more big round of applause for AFSOC's Outstanding Airman of the Year. What a fantastic evening it has been, and really what a great week. This is the right way to do business. You know, it's kind of, as some folks have said, it's kind of like having a homecoming here this week with putting Commando Stripe and Commando Top and Commando Rally in conjunction with the Outstanding Airman of the Year, and of course topping it off in a hugely memorable event because we're honored to have the carpetbaggers here today. I just have a couple of words that I want to pass on, and we'll get to the informal part of the evening. First of all, OSS is the precursor to the CIA. it is also the precursor to the United States Special Operations Command. We ought not forget that. So we do have common roots that go all the way back. So, quick story. I met Bill Becker and Jean last October when we were at an OSS function up in Washington, D.C. And Bill was being awarded a Distinguished Service Award from the OSS. And as we moved towards what looked like the timing was going to be right to stand up the 492nd Special Operations Wing, and we were going to invite the carpetbaggers out here, we thought Bill would be the perfect speaker. We had no idea what Bill was going to say. The chief and I were talking. We knew two things. It was going to be funny, and it was going to be memorable. So, Bill, thank you very much for speaking this evening. And I want to just say thanks again, and I've said this several times, but we're really blessed to be able to share the events that we've been able to share this week with Bill and Jean, and also Hewitt. It really has made for a hugely memorable week for us, and we very much appreciate it. You know, I was talking to Gene Polinsky before we started the evening, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, General Webb, I don't know what it is about this base." This is your homework assignment, okay? "I don't know what it is about this base, but this base has gemütlich." Tina Transu, where are you? You want to help us? Say it again. Very comfortable. The base has a spirit, right? It has esprit de corps. We have that special something that's recognized. This is coming from the carpetbaggers to you. And you know why? You know, part and parcel with why Air Force Special Operations Command has this gemütlich, right? It's these outstanding airmen of the year are 13 classic examples of it. This command is rife with it, and to make it to the top of that kind of cream, you've done a great job. You've done a fantastic job. So I just want to congratulate once more the Outstanding Airman of the Year for AFSOC. I'm very, very proud of you. I hope that we've done our level best to make a really memorable week for you. Best of luck as you go forward. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here this evening.
To get to our pages. A ceremony like this requires the support of the wing and local community. This event would not have been possible without the contributions of our sponsors. Over $8,000 was donated to make this event a success. I'm going to read the list of sponsors. Bear with me for 1 minute because it's very important. The Air Force Association, Hurlburt Chapter, the Air Commando Association, Beach Community Bank, the Cannon First Sergeant Council, Choctawhatchee Military Affairs Council, the Commando Top 3, the Emerald Coast Military Affairs Council, Eglin Federal Credit Union, Fort Walton Beach Military Affairs Committee, the Hurlburt CGOC, the Hurlburt First Sergeant Council, the Hurlburt Spouses Group, the Hurlburt Top 3, Culver's of Navarre, Deb's Coffee Drive-Thru, Geico Insurance, Mr. Kevin Gordy, the Greater Navarre Area Military Affairs Committee, Mr. Tony Hughes, the Navarre Area Board of Realtors, the Navarre Area Military Affairs Committee, the Niceville Valparaiso Military Affairs Committee, Presagius, Redbird Quilts, Rolls-Royce, Mr. David Simmons, Thai Noodle, which has really good pho, if you haven't been there, USAA, Veterans United, Mr. Kevin Voigetz, and Mrs. Melinda Wickham, and the Crestview Military Affairs Committee. Would all of the sponsors please stand up so we can thank you properly if you're here.
We would also like to thank the staff of the Soundside Club and the men and women of the Outstanding Airmen of the Year Committee. Committee members, please stand and be recognized.
That's not all of them, like half of them didn't stand up. And I know who you are. Sergeant Wright, stand up real quick. Sergeant Wright? Sergeant Jones? Those two held this together the whole way, and they were amazing. Thank you so much for your help, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed tonight's ceremony. We would like to extend a heartfelt thank you for attending and honoring this year's award winners. Please wait to congratulate the winners until after we take a group photo. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Have a good night.